We have already shown you a road-focused review of the Jeep Wrangler Sahara, the 5-door version, the long wheelbase. And today we just thought, well, we use the occasion to take the most off-road capable one, a 3-door Rubicon Wrangler, off-road. That's what it's built for. And we also give you a preview of the new pickup truck, the Jeep Gladiator. So please join us for this special review in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. JL is the code for this latest generation of the Jeep Wrangler, and it still features this typical 7-slot grille, now with some dark accentuations to make it even stronger, and those typical round headlamps. They come now optional with LED, or LED is standard with the Sahara and the Rubicon, those top trim levels. You can see here this massive front spoiler, and this Rubicon here is the most off-road capable one. It has a wading depth of 76 centimeters, ground clearance of 25 centimeters, and pretty massive approaching angle, 36 degrees in the front, and descending angle of 31 degrees right there in the rear for this 3-door Rubicon version. Said earlier, there's also the 5-door available. If you're more interested in that, then please later also tune in to our other review with the road focus. So what do you think here? Is it still the design icon you know it? Tell us in the comments. Whereas the 5-door is 4 meters 88 or 192 inches or 16 foot, here the 3-door is 4 meters 33 or 170 inches or 14 foot 2. So there is indeed a massive difference, and there's also a difference in wheelbase here. So it always looks a little bit peculiar to have the small version here, doesn't it? Especially as the Rubicon here with 17-inch wheels with those special off-road tires. This very thick mudguard. It looks so cool in this off-road version, and you can take everything out. As you know it, you can take out the doors, you can flip the front shield to the front right there as in the very old military version, so you can make it open top, and here in this case also then with a soft top. So there's either a soft top or a hard top available for the new Wrangler. And this boxy style, this one here by the way is also a plastic window, so you can take everything off quite easily. It's not as easy of course as just with pressing convertible knob. You have to get used to it a little bit, but then when you know how to do it, you can also do it quite quickly. Sometimes, especially when you have the hard top removal, for example, better with 2 people. Yeah. And you can see the massive ground clearance here again. I really like the styling of this one, especially in red. But what's your design favorite? This one here, a 3-door or the 5-door? Well, you can always argue if it's 3 and 5-door or 2 and 4-door. It depends on if you count the rear hatch as a door or not. In the rear, here with the replacement tire, that's also the reason why the hatch is still opening in this very classic way. Otherwise it would just be too heavy. And at the tail lamps you see that's, well, somewhat still this X shape taken from those old fuel canisters, very interesting also. Then this towing hook here in the Rubicon style. And interesting is that both, so the 3 and the 5-door, they are now about 10 centimeters longer in this new generation. That is of course good for the interior space. However, when it's big on the outside it also has disadvantages, but especially here with the 3-door version, you still get along in the city, for example, pretty nicely. The other one is of course then longer. Well, if you're in the US, maybe not such a big of a problem, but in Europe, this one here comes quite handy, especially in our cities. It's always funny that everyone can open this hood from the outside here. You just remove those ones, those special clamps, and then you can just pop it open. It's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, but who would open your engine just when standing next to the road? I'm not sure if there's any motivation. So, here very interesting, this is this new small petrol engine, 2-liter displacement, 4-cylinder, 271 horsepower, but you can still get a 3.6-liter V6, then with 290 horsepower. And on the diesel side, a small 2.2-liter 4-cylinder with 200 horsepower, or a 3-liter V6 diesel with 264 horsepower. Well, and what's also interesting, an 8-speed ZF gearbox is being used if you have the automatic then, and the whole weight of the vehicle, in comparison to the predecessor, has been reduced by about 100 kilograms. So especially steps forward as for the road usage, as we've shown you with the Sahara, for example, with a little bit better to control while street driving and so on. But is it still as off-road capable as the predecessor? We will find out today. The car key is also somewhat special. It feels rugged and also looks like this, canister style. Very interesting. And then there's also keyless entry available with pressing here, for example. And let's hear the door closing sound, which is very special because of the soft top, indeed. So, and then here you can see you can take out those doors right here. Then they're still secured here, but you can take them out completely. Hard pack here at the inside of the doors, by the way. This is soft, and top part is also hard pack. Here, like this clamp style, like in the front hood. It's also a very interesting idea. Then, red decor elements here for the Rubicon off-road version. Steering wheel also with red contrast stitches and the inside. And then here, of course, those special Rubicon seats. They are beautifully done, again with red contrast, and there's also finally a good example where the fabric seats can play a good role, so you can keep cooler in summer. Of course, those ones are also animal friendly. You can see they also have this bolt string here at the side, and then this one, by the way, fits to the off-road image of the Jeep 2. This one here to control the back part. Then you can have this control here for the very front, for example, and this one here to pump it up, you all. And let's get inside, and we already did open the roof here to give you some more light, and this has just a very special seating position, especially as you look to the front. The hood is a little bit smaller. Well, now there's of course plenty of headroom, but we'll soon also show you how it looks like being closed. Here to the side it comes very close, it's 86 or 601, but the seating position is very comfortable, also in the long run. I have tested that in the Sahara version already. It's quite good. You can have the manual control here, but that's actually fine. This one would be the maximum way to the back, but here I can also sit a little bit more to the front. That's still possible. So I found the seating position here quite cool, and you have still enough room because this whole dashboard area is quite straight, so you can also move around freely. Interior overview, you can see everything is pretty much upright, so that also stresses the strong off-road look overall. And the screen setup would be 3.5 first on the left side, so a small one, optional a 7-inch one. So this one is the bigger one on the left side. And on the right side, you start with a 7-inch one. And this one here is the optional 8.4-inch. So this is then the biggest screen setup. And here, for example, also with the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connection, if you plug in. And you, for example, also have, a new sophisticated rear view camera. I can also show that to you. Turn it on. So, and here we go. This is the rear view camera, and also adjust a little bit. And the resolution is actually quite nice. Well, with the 5-door, of course, it's definitely more important to have that one. Really like those red decoy elements right here, and of course here the panic handle for the co-driver on that side. Material-wise, it's all rather simple. Also here with those rubber knurlings around. Yeah, but they've stepped up the build quality in other areas. The window levers are always here in the middle. The reason for that is because you can take out the doors, so they cannot put so many electrics in at the inside of the doors, for example. Then here, media, you can plug in your phone there, USB-C or the older USB, that's possible. And well, maybe your smartphone won't fit in this lower area there. This is a switch lever here, just a rear drive, then the 4H auto, then the car decides itself. You can drive the 4H auto all-wheel drive also on the road. And 4H part-time, well, it doesn't mean that it's part-time off-road. It means that for part-time off-road use. So 4H part-time is permanent all-wheel drive, but for part-time off-road use. That's interesting. And for full off-road use, then you can always put in the 4L. This is then the off-road gear reduction for the low-range gear. So this one here with a separate gear lever, also more in the classic style. And that's also the theme about this vehicle. By the way, interesting Willys MB logo here on top of the normal gear shifting lever for the automatic gearbox. So the overall scheme of this vehicle is combination of modern stuff and classic stuff. So for example, then here with the modern infotainment system, but then again the low range gear and so on. This is very interesting. The steering wheel here, by the way, has a very interesting size and a very modern look. On the right side you can control the cruise control. On the left side, you can control everything which is in the screen there, switch from miles per hour to kilometers and so on. And there's also a manual control, then up and down, and also in little bit in reach, but yeah, there we go. But when you're tall, then you would rather leave it all the way up. But I think the most interesting part is really that everything is so much upright with this tower here that creates a very special cockpit atmosphere. And well, you could also push this windscreen in the front if you unscrew everything, so that's also possible. But I think in most cases, unless you're driving in the middle of the desert and it's really like very hot, then you can maybe use this fresh breeze. Other than that, you would rather leave it in place. And one more detailed look here at the map. You can zoom in and out like this, so all via touch, and actually a quite good overview. I've seen infotainment systems that are a little bit clearer when you're heading into a destination, but overall it definitely does the job. And by the way, all the climate controls you can also access right here. You just put it on right there again. You can also do it here or like this, but still you can access it with those buttons. That's good. But some functions you can only access here. For example, if you go for a seat heating or so, there's no separate button for that. So seat heating would also be active right there if it is actually equipped with the vehicle. One more detailed look at the instruments right here, left side RPM. And by the way, the check engine light is just on because the ignition is on. It will be dissolving when the engine is running. Right side then the speed. And in the middle part you can have a digital speed, or here also some off-road gauges and so on. So it's also a nice way to be a little bit more flexible. The middle armrest here, by the way, is a split way opening. There. You can have the space right here and here, and you see here a shake test. So there are a lot of parts which are not that well processed. Also very simple everything here, but then there's a lot of space on the inside. Another USB port too. And this one is also connecting to the Apple CarPlay, by the way, so it's not only a charging port. The glove box can be sealed, but you see here, very limited in the space you have right there in this compartment. Well, as the soft top is closed, there's actually a lot of space underneath, so because there's a lot of room then between the soft top and the hard pack stuff. So for tall people, no problem, even when the roof is closed. So by the way, under the sun visor, there are those clamps on when you open them on both sides. Then you can just push it up right here to open the roof and then just fold it backwards. But yeah, I mean, you can do it alone, but then you have to stand upright. So that's still somewhat manual work, but it's easier than before because you also have those hydraulic struts. Then you're also able to push it back again. So, but again, need at least some workout for that. And here we go. just when you stand up, and then you can push it all the way back right here. So this would be the first step. Of course, there are additional steps where you can put everything out. And the interesting thing is really that by those hydraulic struts right there, well, from here it's, yeah, I think it works even with one hand. There, you know, you get a little bit of help, and then you can also put it back in place again and also lock it from the inside. So to get in the rear, you can manual fold that seat here forward like this, and then, well, I'm on lower ground here, so I have to climb in just a little bit, workout style. So, and then we can slide it backwards. And yeah, I mean, I can still sit here, and in the front, well, it would come close now. So I think we should put the seat all the way in the back quite soon. First of all, headroom-wise, yeah, that does come close. So that's a big difference here, of course, to this small or short wheelbase version. You remember in the 5-door version, the long wheelbase one, I could exactly sit in the rear when the seat was all the way back, and there was no problem with headroom. Yeah, but you know, you're a little bit more cramped in here, but it's still somewhat okay and a fun experience, so to say. It's more difference that you don't have any trunk in the 3-door version, so it's not the biggest difference here to the rear. Yeah, there is still a difference, but again, you do not lose so much leg room, then you would lose the luggage area. You only have luggage area if you flip those seats. So now we did the experiment. We put this co-driver seat that way back, not all the way back, but that way back that I could still sit in the rear. And you see, it does still work then here for me. So, at least for this side. But does it also work for the driver's side? So when I put the seat the same way here on the driver's side, I can still drive as a tall adult. So yes, this car is still for tall adult proof. However, the very more comfortable driving position, I would go a little bit more behind, and then it would become very close here behind me. So let's say 4 adult possible and 3 tall adults very comfortably. And if you ever own one, please pay attention when you flip the seats from here in the 3-door version. So never put your hand like this, because this one here is squishing you. So just put your hand right here, because then the seat pops forward. Otherwise, you know, your hand would be squished in here. So Thomas and I, we hurt ourselves a couple of times now. So, but then, you know, when you do it like this, it's okay, just pay attention. And a short look here at the trunk. Look at that, I just folded up a little bit, because, I mean, it takes even more time to remove all the plastic glass. And, well, you have some luggage area left then right there. But the cool thing is you can flip it from here, then push everything forward like this. And then, you know, you're a little bit more flexible once again. Here another shot just from the, you know, reverse angle. There you can see it's, of course, pretty high then overall. But you see, you are at least somewhat flexible. And then you can also push it up here once again. And by the way, just to show you the trunk here once more, you can put a suitcase right here if the bench is still up. And I mean, if the bench is down, there's still a step, so that will remain the same. Yeah, I mean, you have some space left, but of course that's not that flexible. And especially here with the soft top, you have to remove that here and always, so that's a little bit better when you have the hard top, for example. But still, you know, when you have the 3-door version here, you are limited with your luggage. Welcome to Thomas's driving part, today with the Jeep Wrangler JL in the Rubicon style and as a 3-door or 2-door, depending on if you count the last one as the door. So we're today a little bit more agile as for the wheelbase. But then again, we have those, off-road tires. They make, of course, the ride a little bit more wobbly, so to say. But we will need those today because we're driving off-road indeed. And so when I'm normally driving this one on the road, you know, they say that you can meanwhile also use the all-wheel drive mode, this all-wheel drive auto mode, where the car decides itself what it does. But I usually tend to keep it rear-wheel drive on the street. It feels a little bit more agile when you push from the rear, also in the corners. I just felt, you know, with the initial test drive of the bigger Wrangler, that it was a little bit more stable on the motorway when you had then the all-wheel drive, and that's also a quite logical thing. So indeed, you feel that you have the shorter wheelbase here with the shorter model. It's a little bit more fun to drive, especially when you're here in those like more narrow surroundings. The fun thing about the Wrangler in general is that it's one of the very rare off-road vehicles still on the road. So you have the very special off-road driving feeling. You see this pretty strong front hood, but it's a little bit smaller actually than the side of the car. That's also a reason why it's quite fun to drive. You have all those upright windows, so you have a quite good feeling of where the car is actually ending. And this 2-liter petrol engine fits quite well from the first impression to this smaller version of the car. So it feels actually quite light for that reason. And you know, I am actually an off-road fan. I like to drive off-road vehicles. So when you here do some right and left, it's always, you know, like you can shake up the car. That's actually a lot of fun. Of course, it does not deliver you any big stability or something while driving. So that's the downside, and especially on the motorway, we've tested that with the bigger Wrangler. So when you drive more like 90 or 100 kilometers or more than 60 miles on the motorway, that's not the specialty of this car. It gets a little rough, unstable, also quite noisy as for the, you know, oh yeah, pretty confusing here. A little bit noisy as well. But if you compare it to the predecessor, they have actually improved the noise insulation, so that's better, and overall you get a more modern feeling. So this car is actually easier and better to drive, easier to handle than the predecessor. So they definitely improved the road features. Very picturesque village here, the Italian Dolomites in Trentino. So that's why we're also doing the off-road course here today. And I think it's quite helpful to do a little bit cruising around here in the city as for impressions. And again, this is where the 3-door model definitely leads it, because you have this shorter wheelbase, and again, it's a little bit more fun to drive. This one was the 5-door model, if you've seen that here at the street. So here we go. Yeah, I'm quite surprised here also about the small petrol engine. It gives you actually a quite decent drive. So there it is. Same color, also Rubicon, but a 5-door one. I felt we've been here before, Thomas.
I think so too.
Yeah. But again, you know, for the driving impressions, it's not bad to labyrinth around a little bit. The brakes, by the way, they could react a little bit better, I have to say. So really have to hammer them hard to get a reaction. The steering is still laid out for off-road driving. That means, probably seen it also on camera, I have to steer a lot. It is somewhat soft, so you don't need too much power. But in off-road driving, it's important that you don't have too much feedback from the steering wheel. That when the ground is changing, the steering wheel is not going all over the place, and therefore the steering is laid out that you still have to steer, you know, a little bit more. And that's also totally okay for an off-road vehicle, at least if you used it off-road predominantly. So now we get a little bit faster, and yeah, it leans into the corners. But again, this soft off-road feeling is somewhat fun. Not sure how it is for the co-driver. Is it too much, or is it?
No, it's okay, but nothing like a sports car.
Yeah, nothing like a sports car. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, this special driving or this unique driving feeling is also one reason why people go for that vehicle. By the way, here with the soft top, it's of course always louder than with the hard top. So that's a significant difference. So if you have more road usage and the colder it is, the hard top will make more sense. We've shown you earlier that we can also drive with open top. But you know, this construction, it basically remains to be open, somewhat against the wind. It's easier than in the predecessor version, yes, but it's also nothing where you would drive really fast with, then it makes actually more sense either to go with the hardtop and remove those panels in the front, 2 panels. We've shown you that how it works in the Wrangler Sahara version and the 5-door hardtop. Or there's this new version where you have a hardtop, but then there's a panoramic roof to be open electrically. That's actually probably the one I would go for. That's the most comfortable one to go for if you drive with open top. And sometimes just you can still take off the whole top then, but then you need at least 2 people for that. And here when you're like about 70 kilometers an hour, it already gets quite noisy from this soft top. So again, just a car for slow speeds. And I have to stress again, I mean, there are so many things that are really very cool about this car. And it's really such a fun vehicle, so iconic. But remember, it has catastrophic safety ratings as for the crash test. First of all, because they are lacking assistance systems, therefore it only got 1 star in the Euro NCAP crash test. But also there were problems with the hull integrity. So they said they warned that in a frontal crash, actually the whole chassis could take damage. So again, this is not a car where you should drive fast with. It also doesn't lead you to drive fast, So I rather see it, as a fun leisure vehicle in off-roady regions. This one can also be used for the city, but will not take it as a regular motorway vehicle with higher speeds for the safety and also for the comfort, definitely as for noise insulation. Yeah, it's just really peculiar here to drive it on those windy mountain roads. Again, it's leading to the side. That's also how it's supposed to be. We will need the comfort later on in off-road driving. But again, this uniqueness in the driving feeling is also something that applies here definitely to road driving. We can hardly say something, about the fuel consumption here because, when we're going up and down those mountain areas, it's nothing where we will have a realistic figure. So we have to wait for that until we do a 2-liter petrol test on the, on a normal road and so on. Maybe going straight also on the motorway to test that one. Yeah, because here maybe I can reset it for a while. That's okay, but not sure if we get a really decent result as for that. We did have the other engine in the Sahara test, so if you want to know more about that, you can check it out as well. I think it was a 2.2 liter diesel as far as I remember. So, fun ride, off-roady, especially here in the Rubicon. You feel that you have those soft off-road tires, and that's what we're going to do right now. Now guys, it's off-road time, and that means I go to the neutral gear from the normal gearbox. Then first step would be 4H auto, so the normal off-road mode or all-wheel drive mode you can drive on-road. Then when I put it to the right side, 4H part-time, this is the permanent all-wheel drive, but just with low off-roading. Then there would be a neutral gear for that, and then I put all the way back, and then it's the 4L, and that means we are in the, there it is, so really all the way back. And this then it says here also auto park disabled, and now we are in the low gear mode. And we can also put in the differential locks for front and rear, or just for the rear. We leave that for a moment. We don't need it yet, but we'll see if we get stuck, then we might need it. The low range gear, we need it here because we have some muddy situations, and then it's actually better to have more power in this low torque regions, low speed regions. The off-road gear reduction, how does it work? You cannot drive high speeds then, but in the lower speed, so it's different setup then as for a transmission. So then you have more power at lower speeds. But again, you cannot go high speeds, but that's not wanted off-road anyway. So we go uphill here first, and there are 2 major ruts, right and left. Yeah, Thomas is already having fun here. So we have a double Thomas team here today. Thomas M and Thomas B. And when we're driving off-road, we never put in our thumbs at the steering wheel. We always put the thumbs on the steering wheel because we don't want any dislocated thumbs when the steering wheel would have a sudden reaction from the surface change. And here it is actually, I just tried to follow the ruts. Yeah, that's a park sensor, and you see it's getting really rough here. And that's also the thing where you need those off-road tires. You would damage normal tires definitely, as for the wheels, for the alloys. And also those off-road tires, they are softer, they give you a little bit more comfort here. Of course, this is not an off-road vehicle like those modern SUVs where you have, for example, an air suspension and have a very, very soft off-road ride. This is still the real deal. So it's of course not as comfortable as with the air suspension, but since the suspension is rather set on a soft tone, it's still quite okay. And here I'm just keeping on the steady gas. I don't drive too fast actually, so it doesn't get too rough and we still can keep the control. But the important thing is keep it steady and drive forward. Theoretically, those vehicles are also able to start again when we just stop in the middle of the road, yes, but it's always better because it's somewhat muddy here also from the surface. So it's actually better when we can still, keep going. It's actually making more sense than we don't have any situations where we get stuck actually. So here also the car so far manages everything without the differential locks. We might need that when it's getting more muddy. When do you need the differential lock? Let's say on the left side here I would have a situation where the wheel is spinning all the time. Then the differential would not allow me to get traction on the other side of the wheel. So when there's differential lock, both wheels are turning at the very same speed, and then we can still get traction even if one wheel is spinning all the way through, because it doesn't do that then, So then the power gets to the wheel where you actually need it. So this is already something where I would say this is not really soft off-road anymore. Quite often there are off-road tests which are just soft off-road. Of course there's always more extreme, and I know there are always some viewers to say I'm the best off-road driver and this is nothing off-road what you're showing here at the moment. But I can tell you, oh wow. So there's even off-road traffic here. Interesting. So there are also, there's quite nice landscape here. They prepared some different tracks here for the Rubicon and for the other ones, because the Rubicon here with the best approaching and descending angles, for example, most off-road capable one, here also with a 3-door version. The longer wheelbase gives you more stability on the road, yes, but especially here off-road you're a little bit more flexible with this one here. So far did a very good job. It's quite easy to handle, again steady on the gas, calm on the steering wheel, don't steer too much. Sometimes it's also good that you just follow those ruts, especially when you're here in this vehicle. Beautiful trek through the woods, so I hope you also enjoy this nature landscape here. By the way, they have this Camp Jeep, you've seen it initially maybe in one of the shots. So people from all over the world come here to drive the Jeeps, to meet a couple of hundred different, also like vintage Jeeps are here, and they all just do the off-road stuff together, have fun, and come together, talk at the campground and so on. So it's quite a nice thing to do. And Jeep is actually also offering a service that they gather some of the vehicles on the truck, that they don't need to drive down here all the way or drive up depending on where you are. So it's a quite nice transport service then, and then it can go with a road vehicle right here. Sometimes also the tires are not really road legal, so that's also a reason then why you would take your Jeep on the truck right here. So when we're here a little bit faster now, by the way, that would be a situation where I could also put out the low range gear, because here, driving like 20 kilometers an hour, I already feel that the car doesn't want to go much faster with the low range, and it's also not needed. But then again, if I would go way faster here now it's not really safe off-roading. It also gets quite rough here with the rocky terrain now. We also have quite high pressure, by the way, I've seen on the tires. So they probably did that also because of those rocky terrains. If we would have more sand, for example, then we would also have lower pressure in the tires, because in sand you get along a little bit better than with low pressure. But it's really always cool to be out on those trails with an off-road capable car. But now I feel like maybe we should put out the low range gear for a second. Then we can drive a little bit faster. I think that's possible. So go to neutral again and push it forward. So we go to this four-wheel drive mode, which is permanent. Now the traction control is also put on again. Now I can drive a little bit faster. Yeah, on those rocky terrains it gets a little bit rough, but again, it also really depends on the pressure you put on the tire, definitely. But I feel very good here in this 3-door or 2-door version especially, because it's so flexible also when you're going over those corners and so on. We'll soon, by the way, also have an obstacle course. Then we can show you a little bit more extreme situations. But the good thing is, when you're in this vehicle, we can prove it's still very, very off-road capable. Oh, what does it say now? Yeah, now it gets steeper again. Probably need to put in the gear reduction now again. So, but you see that works quite fast. I always go to neutral and that's it. Now we go uphill right there. And now it's time for another off-road feature. Here we activate the hill descent control. We're also in low range gear again, and then we go to the D mode and then left to the M manual mode. In normal street driving you could change the gears by that, and here you change the speed for the hill descent control. So when I pull it towards me, I increase the speed by 1 kilometer an hour, or it will also be like a mile the same way. And when I push it forward, I can decrease the speed, and then I can leave my foot off the brake, and now the car is just keeping it at this speed. At the moment 3 kilometers an hour. If I want to go a little bit faster, I pull it backwards. Now we're going downhill at 4 kilometers an hour, and that's of course a very handy solution. You can keep it really steady and pretty safe, and also going downhill, and you still have traction, but you keep it in a very calm way. So it's a good safety feature also when going downhill. And yeah, pretty relaxed then. You just have to hold a little bit with the steering wheel that you don't get off to the right or to the left. Now it also gets pretty rocky, and this is actually a decent speed. And if there's really a super steep downhill, then you could really go to the lowest speed, and then we're all fine. So now it gets really rocky, so I go a little bit slower even. So now we're getting to a steep step, so that we don't lose any camera. There we go. So I put it to 2 kilometers an hour, then we can safely go down right here. So those modern off-road car features make you handle the car a little bit easier and also in a safer way, so that's definitely cool to have those. So by the way, in the low range gear, the center differential lock is always on, so that's also the most important thing then, especially when we're going uphill. And again, as I said earlier, the other differential locks we would actually need when it's getting really muddy or so. But it's relatively dry right here now on this side of the hill. The other side was a little bit muddier, but so that's also quite good for going downhill. Then we have good grip here. Now we can also go a little bit faster once again. But definitely a lot of fun. Finally, I was able to take this one here off-road. I've been waiting for that for a very long time. And now we get to some obstacle driving. Those ones are some logs with some metal plates on top, and this is here actually that we can show how the wheel can go transverse. Do this very slowly. It always looks really cool from the exterior, and it's really hard because we need to stay on top actually. So it's really tough to control it from the inside. Here now, when one wheel is lifting off the ground, and you always try to counter steer, but actually you may not counter steer that much. That's that's the problem here. So it's good to have also an instructor on the outside that you don't fly off those logs here overall. Definitely those exteriors are pretty cool. Oh, now it gets really steep again. And from when you're sitting on the inside, it feels actually quite easy. So now we're going sideways. Wow, this is really scary. So there's a roll of, it says me in the off-road gauges here, roll of 25 degrees at the moment. Yeah, so we could pick our flowers from the left part now. Wow, that's pretty scary, isn't it, guys? Not sure how it looks like on camera, but when you feel those G-forces pulling you to the left at the same time. We had recently also the Mercedes GLS review where I had an off-road part, and then they had this one ridiculous comment. So it was like, why aren't you greeting people from the outside? Because I'm concentrated that I'm not rolling over. Yeah, that's so yeah, hui. That was scary. And finally, we go on this log barrier here, way up into the sky. This is now a pitch of 22 degrees at the moment. And you're looking straight into the sky. Can't see anything. But here it's actually important just to keep it straight. Yeah, a little bit to the left. Tires are squeaking just a little bit. It's really tight here for that car. I mean, it's built that it fits somehow. And now we're going right down again. See if that also will be a pitch of 22 degrees. Now just back again. And I mean, again, there is the hill descent control, but I can also just stay on the brakes, especially because we have great grip here. Yeah, 21 degrees pitch here. And I think, even more important again that we have some nice exterior shots here. Thomas was also doing parallel. Hope you enjoyed also this one then here. And finally, last exercise for today. So I'm approaching those logs here now, and the thing is, I'm not going right straight on them, because it's better when you have those obstacles that you approach them in a diagonal way, so they are actually less steep for the car then, and you you prevent also it from touching the ground. We've done that pretty much a lot with the Land Rover Discovery when we were in Utah at Moab. This is where also the Wrangler should be put on actually. This is also quite fun. And now when we're on those logs, we can put it straight again. Now we're all good. So for descending again, we go down again in a diagonal way. So it's actually less steep than for the tire as would be when we would drop down very straight. Yeah, a lot of fun here too. And now to our conclusion for today with the Jeep Wrangler JL as 3-door Rubicon. So, first of all, this new generation is a little bit better in driving on the road. It's a little bit more silent, you can handle it a little bit better and so on. Has new amenities like those new infotainment systems, for example, with good smartphone connectivity and so on. So those are the main improvements, and it's also lighter than the predecessor generation. New engines there as well. Today it was the 2-liter petrol, which was doing a quite good job overall. Then the different 3-door, 5-door or 2-door, 4-door, depending on how you define it. Well, this one here is definitely more agile to drive on road and cities, and has really good advantages, especially today here on the off-road trail, because you know, we had some uphills where we had some bends right there, and that came a little bit close if you would be there in the 5-door version. So the shorter wheelbase here, especially for tight off-road situations, that was a big advantage. A little bit more fun to drive this one. However, then the longer wheelbase one gives you a little bit more stability overall, and of course is more practical because you can store much more luggage in there. You can still drive with 3 to 4 tall adults in this one here, but then there's hardly any trunk left, and especially here with the soft top setup in the rear, yeah, it's not that handy to put in and out luggage. So we had half of that on the back seat today and half of that in the trunk, split it between our two Thomases. So yeah, that's where the 5-door version is definitely better. Depends on what your usage is. Hardtop or soft top, there again, you know, with the soft top you can unmount it a little bit faster overall if you drive all open top. The hardtop then, if you're more in colder surroundings, have a longer winter and so on. And I really like this new version that you can also have the retractable hardtop with the electric function. That would be also quite cool, I think, for, you know, a lot of users overall. The disadvantages of this car is definitely that when you go faster, on the highway especially, it gets a little bit louder, a little bit rougher. Also, especially with off-road tires, it's a little bit wobbly. Then the use case is maybe also not the best one. So I really see this vehicle as a leisure off-road vehicle still, where you can do both road and off-road driving, but have the off-road focus still somewhat. Again, if you're driving long ways on the motorway, it's not that comfortable, also not that good from the fuel economy and so on. And of course, the crash safety rating is not that good. That's also one of the major drawbacks. And again, leads to that it's more a vehicle where you drive at lower speeds. And then the cool thing is it's so unique on the market. It's such an icon, and it always brings you a smile on the face when you drive it. And now to the Jeep Gladiator. There was a Gladiator before in the past. We will soon also show that to you. But this one here is the all-new model. It's of course based on the normal Wrangler, but then there's even a third wheelbase. Soon more to those figures. You can already see the difference here. The smallest Wrangler to the longest, so to say. Here's the Gladiator, and this is of course a massive length difference. You can do a little bit more things with this vehicle. We have an all-opened version here in white, but we also have one in black that is all closed, so we can also show the differences there. In the front, well, the bumper here is a little bit different. Other than that, you can see you have the typical styling you also see from the Wrangler with this 7-slot grille. And well, you can really mistake it for maybe the very short or the middle length version. Then you don't only see that it's the Gladiator from the front, but will be very different than from a side profile. The Gladiator is even 65 centimeters longer than the long wheelbase Wrangler. So here at 5 meters 53, 218 inches or 18'1". So you can really compare it also to other pickup trucks. Here the Rubicon, the off-road version, and also with the removed doors here. That's pretty interesting. In the US it's not a problem, but remember when you do it in Europe, you need to have at least one side mirror, otherwise the police will stop you. So it's not a problem even in Germany to drive with the doors out, but you would need an additional mirror. You always need 2 mirrors then. So one in the middle and at least one here at the side. So you can actually only demount one door at the moment. Very interesting. 17-inch wheels here with off-road tires for the Rubicon version. Great contrast here also to the white. Here also the windshield is mounted down for maximum of fresh air. And then you can see there's even longer wheelbase than the 5-door Wrangler. Yeah, that's pretty massive. And of course then the loading area right there. You can also put some motocross bikes on there if you have it like this. The rear hatch all down, then it's actually possible. It's even allowed to drive like that. You just need to fix them really tightly. So for not only off-road use, also just for outdoor leisure use, or when you put some other equipment there in the rear, that would be the use case for this one. And it is still off-road capable. Of course, somewhat limited then with a long wheelbase there. You have cannot go all the way up to small vents that you can do with 3-door, but a very interesting concept and another addition to their old model lineup. The Gladiator Rubicon, by the way, here also gets those special Fox shocks, both in the rear and in the front. And in the rear, square dimensions here, as we know from pickup trucks. I really like this contrasted lettering right there with the Jeep, and also those 3-dimensional tail lamps here. Gladiator also gets 2 towing hooks right there, special off-road towing hooks, and the normal towing is close to 3 tons, depends on 2.7 tons was the latest official figure. And the payload then, if we put it down, by the way, here is also damper, that's cool. Payload here just over 700 kilograms, and you get a special coating for this one, this special rugged coating. And of course you can also sit down here, or as I said earlier, you can also put the motorist bikes here that the rear wheels are also just on here then. And there are also special equipment that you can have, like a net here on the outside, for example. So 2 bikes do actually fit right in here. What's also interesting is, if you come around here, there's also a power plug right there. So for any outdoor activities, for example, that car also comes quite handy. And very important that for the tension belts and so on, you can use the side hooks here or those then here. So this is very important, especially when you want to fix the bikes. And that's the Rubicon Gladiator here in black, so different color. And also this one here is all the way closed with the closed setup, hardtop is mounted, also the windshield and so on. I think it's very interesting to see both at the same place at the same time. Which one would you go for, the black or the white? You also have some flexible solutions here for the rear. For example, this one here, a bicycle mount. This would be one possibility. And there's, for example, also the like this, you can put in some trays, for example, here on the rear that you can slide them open when you put the hatch here down. So different solutions, especially from the accessory part. They call this department MOPA, and then you can get different accessories here also for the Gladiator. Here, this one also got those special handles right there. That's really cool to hold on tight, especially in off-road situations. Really like those. Look at those slots here from our 3-door Wrangler Rubicon, the slots in the front grille. Not sure if you can see it on camera, but the slots here on the Gladiator are a little bit wider for a little bit more cooling. And the Gladiator is only available with the bigger engines. So there is the 3.6 liter V6 petrol engine with 290 horsepower, not available in Europe. And there is the 3 liter V6 diesel with 264 horsepower, mated with an 8-speed automatic gearbox by ZF. It's really funny to film the interior here when everything is right open. So Thomas B is standing now on the loading area, and you can see the interior in front is just like as we know it from the Wrangler. You can get those red accentuations here for the Rubicon. You get this option 8.4-inch screen on the right and the bigger instrument cluster on the left. Very much upright. So this is really all the same Wrangler and Gladiator. You can see that it's basically the same car in the front compartment. Very interesting. Of course, more you can see also in our Wrangler reviews than always from the interior. Special is also then in the rear here. This will be very interesting. What about the wheelbase? Does it change here anything of the space here in the rear? So first I go into the front here, and I can just confirm again it's the same seating position. I can adjust the steering wheel like this, and when I sit like this, that would be a suitable position here also for me in the Gladiator. It's really funny to look to the front when there's no windshield mounted, definitely. And then when I switch to the rear side, how much space do I actually have here? And well, that's as much legroom as I would have in the 5-door Wrangler, actually. So the increased wheelbase does not go into the legroom on the second row. It's more that you really have this loading area. So it's longer on the exterior, but also longer on the wheelbase. But it doesn't change anything here for the rear. So 5-door Wrangler and the Gladiator, basically the same space you have than here on the rear seats. Interesting is here, by the way, that you can not only flip those seats, then you have a top tether in the rear, so when you put some luggage on there, but it's also interesting that you can put those seats up, actually like this. And then you have underneath right there some boxes, so you can put some stuff in there. So pretty handy use. And you can also put up this one here, and then there's another box right there. And here's also the storage for the nuts and bolts to mount everything back on again, as for the doors and so on. So guys, now to a very special drive here. Actually, I was told I'm the first journalist in Europe who is allowed to drive the Gladiator. We just can drive it here a little bit off-road around this area here. But it's still, will be a lot of fun. So no road test yet allowed, and the first time actually I'm driving also with all things down here, everything is really cool. So we just drive a little around here. That's really cool. I mean, it's so much fun to have everything open. Wow, this is amazing. Of course, you also feel that you have a longer wheelbase here in the Gladiator, so it's not as agile, but from the first impression, I think it doesn't feel that much different than you would drive in the, in the 5-door Wrangler. So actually, it's it's pretty cool. And this all open setup, I mean, this is so amazing, so special. We also have special camera mounts here for you today. The one here on the front windshield, which is down, and the other one right there on the top. So this is really amazing. Wow, and look at that landscape. Wow. So a cool tour here for you. Steering wise and so on, everything feels just the same as you would know it from the normal Wrangler. It's just, with the longer wheelbase that you might feel. Hey. So this is basically the only difference. And we'll turn around right here again and go the way back. See, also put in the reverse gear. We have a rear view camera. Oh, we also have the front view camera. That's pretty cool. So, and both have a very nice resolution. That's good that we can use this one actually. So it's very easy to steer this car around, especially since you have this, the longer loading area right there. This is really good that we have the rear view camera. Thank you. Sorry, special test right here today. Yeah, really enjoying this, and especially if you drive somewhere where it's really hot or so, then it's really cool to keep it all the way open. Easy steering here again. And from the first impression, this longer wheelbase isn't hindering me too much. It would maybe be a problem if I go up some, very winding corners or something. But the first impression is that this car here is still pretty easy to handle, also with the longer wheelbase. We also go a little bit tighter now, a little bit on this area, because again, not allowed to take this car on the road yet. We'll do that at a later stage when it's allowed for everyone. I'm in the rear-wheel drive mode actually at the moment. That gives me the most agility, but also the low-range gear here is available especially for the Rubicon. The Rubicon also with those very soft off-road tires that makes the car a little bit, wobbling more around and so on. Now again to this different surface. Yeah, everyone is enjoying me driving around here. Yeah, I mean, there's no air suspension here, so it can get somewhat rough. Oh no, we're doing some camera blowing here. So the other camera guys also have a moving around vehicle. So let's see, we can also go around this grass here, for example, just to take a little stroll. How rough it gets, it also depends a little bit on the tire pressure, of course. If you put it a little bit lower, it gets a little bit easier then. As for the softness, when at the moment the tire pressure is quite high also, then it's a little bit rougher. But here again, I can stress, look at how easy the car is to steer, and also from the whole turning circle and so on, it's actually not too bad. So the wheels turn quite a lot. See here, 38 degrees, it says here also in those front instruments. And that's the reason why see here the turning circle is really not too bad. Like, it's just research again how cool it is to, like, to have everything all open. That's such an amazing feeling, definitely. So there's also a small rut here in the road. Look, we can approach that one slowly, right there. But this vehicle, of course, has no problem doing that. So we don't run over some people here. Oh, I want to take a look at that one here. That's a 1941 special edition for a 3-door. There's special Mopa parts you can see there. So much fun in here. Yeah, I mean, I could very well imagine putting like some motocross bikes on here and then going to the next track. So I think it's a very interesting addition to the lineup. Here we're in rear-wheel drive only. We also have some wheel spin here on this soft ground. Yeah, but I think got some first impressions here from you, for you, exclusively with the Jeep Gladiator. A lot of fun, and looking forward to do more with this one, definitely. And this is the original Gladiator 1967 J300 Gladiator Thrift Side, it was called. Here with a V8 engine, 5.4 liter. So pretty massive at that point. It was an innovation, by the way. They did not have a rigid front axle, but an independent suspension in the front. Yeah, that was special at that time. Really interesting. So that was at that time then the Jeep pickup. You can see that well from the front. Let's move to the side. Also very interesting color. It was also used in the famous TV series Doctory, by the way. Then you can see the loading area here. Some hay on today, just as a sample. So yeah, quite rugged use. And the interior, that's very interesting. Take a look at that. Here we go. So bench that goes all the way through, then a very interesting steering wheel, the instruments. Oh, I like this walkie-talkie, you know, like truck style, like old school truck style with the walkie-talkie. Yeah, it's always amazing to see those old precious models. I mean, we enjoy modern comfort of today's cars. Whoa. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. It's like very, very soft sofa here, like in the living room. 3-speed automatic transmission here, by the way, right at the steering wheel. And of course you have to, you know, steer with a lot of power. So with this new Jeep Gladiator, you get all the features that you get from the new Wrangler generation. Both exterior and interior, especially also infotainment-wise. But you're a little bit more flexible because you have this pickup loading area, for example, for leisure activities. It's especially fun here to drive with all the way, you know, everything demounted. This is also one of the special unique features both of the Wrangler and of the Gladiator. Of course, when you have some winding corners, the shorter wheelbase versions will be more agile. But again, when you drive rather slowly or just straight, then it won't make any difference. And I could show here on this short test ride today that even though it has a longer wheelbase, it's still quite easy to handle, especially with this new steering input and also rear view camera, front view camera, that you can still have everything under control. So pretty impressive first impressions here from the Gladiator. Hope you enjoyed this small ride. Of course, stay tuned when we have the full road test of this one.